That was American Gangster.
Yeah.
I truly think Denzel has been in the 2 longest movies we've seen.
Yeah, no, because I guess you get Denzel on your cast. You're like, all right, we're gonna get as much Denzel as we can for this.
Yeah.
For this price, 3-hour movie. I don't
Denzel.
care.
We are getting Denzel because the last one that he was in that was like long as I don't know what was Malcolm X.
Oh yeah.
That was like 3 hours though, wasn't it?
That one was long. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Danielle.
And I'm Del.
And this is the Black Catch-Up, where we're catching up on iconic black media we missed out on in our more conservative religious childhood.
Alright, so today we watched American Gangster.
American Gangster, yeah. So, as always, I'm DB. An outcast New York City cop is charged with bringing down Harlem drug lord Frank Lucas, whose real life inspired this partly biographical film.
Okay.
So that makes a lot of sense, what we saw. So, starting off with positives.
Yeah.
Is it my turn to start?
Yeah, I guess you can start.
Okay. I'll say the classic Denzel was great. Water's wet. I don't think there's a time when Denzel's not the coolest person in the room. Like, he's so good. He was really good in this. I just... What else is there to say? Like I said, water is wet. Like, what are we even doing anymore?
Yeah. He definitely had some, like, really good moments, with, like, showing, like, just range and emotion,
Yeah.
Yeah. I had him down as well. I also thought, the other guy, Richie,
I think
can't remember the actor's name. Yeah, Russell Crowe, yeah. He also did very good in this one, I thought, as well.
Yeah.
Very believable as that kind of, like, outcasted cop, still trying to do the right thing kind of thing, but, like, I don't know. He got kind of, like, grungier as the film went on, which I think was also very good.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the lead actors definitely did what they had to do for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, my point, I did like the story of this one.
Yes.
And how it kind of interweaved, like, drugs, city life, as well as, like, military versus, like, cops being kind of corrupt, him bringing in his family.
Yeah.
So, like, it had a bit of, like, family interwoven in there. Then also, like, a bit about the race piece of, like, certain enemies don't want to see a black person be this successful, regardless of what he's doing. So, I just thought, like, the story was just, like, well told, and it was an interesting story, just off, like, what it was.
Yeah, I said a lot of the same things. There's just something I enjoy about gangsters controlling a town, just because, or like a city, because they just do it. They just basically have their hands in every little aspect of everything. And I don't know how else to say this, but I just thought it was interesting how I don't like that. I don't like it as much in like a gang movie. The movie we saw before this one for an episode was Menace to Society. And essentially, gangsters are like the gangs in those kinds of movies, but I just don't find that as enjoyable. And I don't know if it's like how it's not as elegant because they're not like buying people off, because when you think about it, there were a lot of the same elements in this movie as there were in Menace to Society, and the fact that there was like someone could die at any moment. Granted, there wasn't as much death in this one. Someone could die at any moment. Basically, the whole drug thing where you were like, they're selling drugs. That there's a lot of those same elements, but it's just something that's so interesting how like I found it way more compelling in this scenario versus the other scenario.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that too. And I think like part of it is like in those like more hood movies, like race is such a focus of, the violence and the getting back at people that like, I don't know, it doesn't seem as like genuine as in this one, I guess. Or I don't know if genuine's the right word, but in this one it's like, you owe me money and that's why we're beefing. Whereas in, some of the other ones, it's like, okay, we're both black and live in the same city, so we're beefing, And that's not as compelling. Because I also noticed, I know I said the same thing for the Western we watched.
Yeah.
Where, it is the same, like, hey, like, you shoot me, I shoot you thing. But, just taking it into a different setting changes it a lot,
Yeah. I think another aspect of it that could be it is that in this one, we're seeing a higher up in terms of the gang. Because Frank Lucas was the head honcho. He was like calling the shots and everything. Whereas a lot of times when we watch those other movies, we're just watching kind of like an underling, and they're expendable. So you definitely see that a lot more of that. Whereas I don't think we have, at least, seen one where we're seeing like the head person in a gang doing all the stuff that they need to do and like buying off the cops and all that stuff. So maybe that's part of it. But again, I thought it was more elegant, and also because I was thinking this because I listen to true crime podcasts a lot. Hi, I'm Danielle. This is my story. But there was one episode about mob bosses, and it's just so fascinating because a lot of stuff that takes down mob bosses is not like their actual crimes, it's taxes. Like, they'll get caught on tax evasion charges because, like, Uncle Sam will get their money. Whereas, like, if you, like, did something else, you can, like, buy everybody off.
Yeah.
Because, like, even Frank Lucas was like, and I have this judge and da-da-da-da-da, and I could find all these people to, like, corroborate my story for me. But, yeah. Next point. We went off on a little tangent there, but...
Yeah, is this me or you here?
I think it actually is me, so let's see.
Okay.
I liked when... I'm doing specific scenes now. There was just something so... In terms of, like, cool and elegant, I guess. Elegant's not even the right word, but just, like, reasons for killing people. The one that I enjoyed was when he killed his cousin, I think. The guy who owed him money. And it was in the street, and then he, like... He either got greedy and didn't want to give him money. I don't even quite remember what he was doing. This movie was so long. But he shot him, and then he, like, pulled out a cup and gave him 20%. That tickled me.
Was that his cousin? Or was that...
I think that...
Yeah, in my head, that was just Idris Elba. You know?
Oh, I was going off of Wikipedia, and in Wikipedia it mentioned a cousin, but the Wikipedia on this isn't as extensive as it should be for a 2.5 hour
wasn't useful
movie.
at all. At
I
all.
know!
I looked at it, too, trying to remember what happened, but...
I was pissed!
Yeah.
I was pissed at how small that Wikipedia was. I was like, this movie is 2.5 hours. How is the Wikipedia like this
like
long?
2 paragraphs, yeah.
But I think it could have been Idris Elba, but just that moment tickled me.
Yeah, no, that was a good moment. Yeah, I thought this movie had like some pretty good like cinematic scenes. I think my favorite scene was that pretty much the whole end of like him going to church with his mom as they like surround him outside, and then just that scene of him like walking out of the church surrounded by cops everywhere, and he just knows like, okay, this is the end of the line for me. And honestly, even that scene through to the end of the movie, because I think probably like my second favorite scene, or if you count it as one, was pretty much that trial scene and them going into that like interrogation room and having that conversation where it's like,
oh, I loved that.
I know you have needs too, like you have a family, like you have things you're worried about too. I can get you those things, you know? So but I thought that scene was just beautifully done, and you know, again, like that was seeing like Denzel and Russell Crowe like, you know, on screen together, because I don't think they were like actually on screen together that much in the movie, but seeing them kind of go back and
never
forth.
even saw each other till the end.
Yeah, exactly. So like that kind of build up, and then you got the scene you wanted between them two.
Yeah,
so,
it was so good. I loved that scene. Because, sorry, I went a step further and I said I liked the scene from like the chaotic arrest when they were getting all his family, his family in the room, and there was like just like gunshots and like a shootout and everything. That was chaotic. And meanwhile, you just see him at church with his mom, and like that entire scene leading into the interrogation. Like all of it was so good. And even him like leaving the prison at the end and seeing that things are like different but not as different as you think. I just love that entire sequence. The last thing I liked was, and again, this kind of has to do with how much I enjoy like watching a gangster, was when they were showing Frank Lucas and Richie was explaining what he does in a typical day. I just found that so fascinating because it's like, yeah, he's like the head guy. He's not out there like slinging drugs on the side of the road. He's like helping the community, so he has like allies and everything, and he goes to church with his mom on Sunday, and he does da 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 da. I just thought that was just so fascinating because again, he's not middle management. He's the head guy.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all I had as well.
That's all I have.
All right. Getting into negatives.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this one's me. There were a couple side plots that I didn't think added too much. Most of the like love side plots, like basically Richie and his ex-wife, thing.
That was the one I
and
had.
The kid could have scratched that whole thing. Like everything about that could have left. Like
That whole
I
thing
don't
was
know.
BS. I didn't need it at all.
Yeah, and like I guess they needed it for that final scene where like he's like, oh, you have a kid, you have alimony or child support payments or whatever, but like that you didn't need that at all.
You didn't need that even a little bit.
And then I would even say like I thought Frank's wife was kind of useless too. Like they didn't really do much with her. There was that one scene where she got shot at in the car.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's why they gave him a wife for this movie, so we can have this scene of tension here, But it felt like other than that, like I didn't really get too much out of her being in the movie. And like the way they, like even the way they introduced her was kind of weird too. Like they just met at a party and then married like a scene later.
Yeah.
Like it almost seemed like she could have just already been married and then like she wouldn't have had to like been a character at all. Really, I don't know if that makes sense, but like. Yeah, it almost like felt like they showed that, like them showing the wedding and showing, them meeting made it feel like she should have done more in the movie, but she only seemed to be there for that scene. Yeah. She was only there for like that one scene where he needed to protect her,
Yeah. I said the exact thing about, I posed the question, I was like, what was the point of in saying that Richie's getting a divorce? Like, what did that do?
Yeah.
It didn't do anything. Especially because... I did like when she chewed him out in the courtroom. That made me happy.
Yeah, I like that too. That was good.
I liked that. But it was a kind of thing where it was like, he was already interesting in the fact that he's a cop who turned down $500,000, who turned down like $500,000. Whereas all the other they'd like said at the end, like a third of the police force was crooked. Or possibly more. I honestly can't remember the number.
Yeah,
but it was like at least a third of the police force was crooked. So it's like, that's already interesting that of all the entire police force in that state, like a third of them were crooked, and he is like turning in $500,000 that he finds, and everyone else is like, dude, what the fuck? You could have been like set for life. You could have like moved out. You could have da-da-da-da-da. You could have made like a real alliance with these like drug guys like the rest of us have done. Like, what are you doing here? Like, oh my gosh. So him being divorced in the middle of that, I was like, what the hell is this about? Like, why do we care? He didn't even care about his kid. Why should we?
Yep.
I will say, I think this movie took a little bit too long to ramp up to the fun gangster stuff. Mm-hmm. This movie is 2 hours and 37 minutes.
Yeah,
it is so freaking long. Y'all, you needed to cut some stuff out and like quickly get us to the plot. Oof.
Yeah, the other thing I had, it seemed sort of low stakes to me at times. Like, it seemed like there weren't consequences for actions that happened in the movie until, like, the movie wanted there to be consequences. Like, I don't know, like, the broad day shooting you mentioned where he, like, shoots the guy and, like, puts the jar by his head. Like, I like that scene, but, like, that was in broad daylight, and after that scene happened, we were still pretending like this dude's laying low. So, like, it was just, like, little stuff like that. And then, like, him bringing his whole family in to be on the operation, like, I don't know. I feel like business and family doesn't mix, especially for the drug game.
That's always messy. I don't like that.
So that seemed weird. And then on the Richie side, I thought he was, like, trailing things way too closely for most of the movie. Like, there was the scene where he, like, sends the guy out to buy Blue Dream, and he, like, gives him all his money, like, $20,000 to buy drugs, which, again, that seemed like a bad plan. And then he proceeds to, like... Then he proceeds to follow him like a couple feet behind as he like walks into that restaurant and gets mugged for the money. And I'm like, this seems like a bad idea. And like, it seems like you should have been caught, or like someone should have seen you trailing him, or like, I don't know. He was like creeping outside the store kind of weird. And I'm like, I just felt like there should have been more consequences in the middle of the movie rather than like all the consequences coming at the end when he gets caught,
Because from my perspective on this, because this is my last point, it almost didn't seem like Frank and Richie were foils to each other. It didn't seem like... Because in a movie like this, what I would expect is it to be kind of like a cat and mouse game. Where it's like, he knows... Where it's like Frank knows that Richie wants him arrested. And he's like... Maybe he'll like do something but like leave his calling card as like a wink and be like, haha, could have gotten me, or something like that. Or anything of that nature. But it didn't seem like they were like... it almost seemed as though you could replace Richie with any cop and it would have been the same. Yeah. And I think that's not what I want.
I would say like either that, or it almost seemed like their two stories were like kind of independent for most of the movie. Like
Yeah,
that cop
yeah,
almost
yeah.
could have been chasing anyone, and like
Yeah.
Frank was just kind of a drug dealer, living his
Yeah,
life
yeah.
normally.
That's what it is. It's like both Frank and Richie were interchangeable in each other's stories.
Mm-hmm.
So it like kind of didn't. So like even though I do like the final arrest scene where that happens, it's almost like it almost didn't feel right that Richie was the one arresting him because it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
what do you mean? Like this isn't like, to me it wasn't like a big triumph because it's like, oh, I know he's been trying to catch him this whole time, and like, and you could see where Frank is ahead of the game for him, and like he set up something so that he follows his false lead instead, and yada yada yada, and you don't see where and Richie wasn't doing anything like underhanded to try to like get the extra sting or
Yeah,
anything like
yeah.
that. He was trying to be above board and everything, which is fine, but it just made it so that they were just so like circling each other like this, and it's like the Venn diagram for them like connecting was like the tiniest little part of the circle.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like I wanted that scene where like Richie catches Frank but like doesn't have the evidence to actually bring him in. So they
Yeah,
just have
yeah,
like
yeah.
that conversation and they both walk away knowing they'll see each other again.
Yeah.
It's like we didn't get any of that in the
Yeah.
bulk of the movie,
It's almost like they were two separate stories that could have been two separate movies.
Yeah, yeah. Like a trilogy or like the last movies where they come together and actually like start fighting each other or like going for each other.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That was my big gripe, I think. That it was just like, I get that it's good that Richie arrested Frank, but it's like it could have been anybody.
mm-hmm.
Like you could have picked anybody in the you could have like pointed to me and I could have arrested Frank and it would have had the same weight.
Yeah, the same feel at the end.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we're ready for ratings.
Yes. I can go first this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave this a 3 out of 5. Overall, I really enjoyed A Gangster Story. It's just really fun and fascinating to watch for me. Everyone's acting was top notch, but this movie is 2 hours and 37 minutes, and it takes a bit to ramp up. And then in the end, it kind of just like, the stories were not close enough. They just weren't close enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I gave it a 3 as well. Like, I did have a lot of fun for the same reasons, like it just being a gangster movie.
Yeah.
The actors being great, like the cinematography being good. I thought the score was also like really beautiful too.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of those like little things that you would want from a movie, like, slightly higher consequences, the storylines being a little more connected. Just those like little extra things that I think would have put it over the top to be like a great movie, but it was still like very enjoyable. And yeah, again, like just fun to see like actors kind of doing their best and
Yeah, and I will say the actors definitely made it that 3.
Yeah.
Because if you had worse actors, this movie could have been long and bad.
Yeah, no, especially because it's 2.5 hours, and it does kind of linger in the beginning, like moves pretty slow in the beginning, and I think it kind of lingered the whole way a little bit. But,
Until like the end.
Yeah, pretty much till the end,
But yeah, with worse actors, this could have been a complete disaster. But because of the caliber of acting we got, you kind of are like, you can kind of see that there's a story in there and that it's like a good story and it's being acted well, but it's like it's not being executed in the way that I want.
Yeah, I agree. Final question. Do you wish you saw this one sooner?
Yeah, I guess that long pause means no, because I don't have a reason to have seen it sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a no for me too. Not really too much of an explanation. Like, it was a fun movie to watch now, but like, I don't feel like I missed out on anything great.
Yeah, I didn't miss out on anything. I have no reason to have seen this sooner.
Yeah.
This doesn't come up a lot. I guess I could have wanted to see this sooner if I like wanted to watch another Denzel movie, but like, nah.
Yeah. But yeah, that was American Gangster.
Yeah.
YouTube housekeeping. Like, comment, subscribe.
Ring the bell for notifications. If you have any movie suggestions for us, you can leave them in the comments down below. We do movies on Tuesdays and Fridays. All of our socials will be linked in the description box down below, and we'll see you next time to catch up. Bye! Like, they got their money's worth for Denzel, because his pay cut wasn't cheap. Like
No, it wasn't.
like his salary was like
So they said every piece of Denzel footage we got is going in the movie. I don't care how long it ends up. Every single piece of Denzel footage will be in this movie.
We're just lucky they didn't accidentally put the camera on him while he's at craft services, or else we would have randomly got him in costume, like eating a fried shrimp, like.
Huh? They like catch him in his trailer, like, nope, you're here. We're recording you.
And that's why the movie was camera. So long. The minute you get to set, you were on camera.
Yeah, you were on
Be
camera.
ready.
There are hidden cameras in your room. You will be filmed at all times. You're getting every dime's worth.